just gonna hang my hat now and probably for the next couple of years on the fact that as I like to remind you with every chance I get, I correctly predicted the final matchup of the Euros. And I just have to rely on that fact for my own pride. Because I tried to warn you fair and square that fantasy is not my forte. But I love it so much. So I was pleasantly surprised to see how many people in the comments over the last couple of weeks were asking for a fantasy Premier League update video. And after the game week that I had this past weekend, there was honestly no better time to come back and talk about it, because hopefully the storyline is going in the right direction for me, knock on wood. But let's go ahead and have a look at my screen so that we can see how things have been going, what changes I've made. And by the way, if you haven't yet seen the video that I made before the start of the season talking about my team selection, I'll have that linked in the description box along with the code to join our league, our invitational league on Fantasy Premier League, so that you can join if you haven't done so yet, and then bump me down even lower in the league rankings. To catch you up, I started this season without Haaland, and you can imagine how that went for me. So let's go ahead right away and have a look at game week 1. We have 6 weeks to go over together, and then at the end we'll look at game week 7 together. So let's get into it. Game week 1. Right away, looking at the summary, average points, I think it was like a relatively high scoring week for everyone. Average was 57, and I finished on 49, which made me 6.3 millionth out of 10.4 million. So right away, the big tragedy for me, first week, worst case scenario, Fabian Schär got the red card. And not only was I relying on him to be like a relatively high scoring defender, that meant I lost him, and like he's not cheap, and I was losing him for the next 2 weeks after that, on top of getting the -2. So that was a tough start for me. And then for some reason I had Ollie Watkins as my captain, and Ollie Watkins has been, wait till we get to him, but like game week 4, game week 6 were wonderful for him, but the season didn't start that way for him. Like 2 points, 5 points. Keep that in mind for a little bit later. But for some reason, I mean, they were playing West Ham. Anyone else would have been a better choice. Chris Wood came out swinging 9 points in game week 1. And then I would have maybe been looking at, I mean, Isak would have been a better choice. Gordon would have been a better choice. But looking at the defenders, 6.76 for Saliba and 8 for Raya, Watkins was not the way to go. Thankfully, there was no one I had to regret putting on my bench. So that was game week 1. Let's move on to game week 2. Now the average for game week 2, 69 points. I finished with 59 points. That puts me at 7 million. So I did worse than my first week. I think I had Foden on my bench, and he wasn't even on the bench for Man City. So that was something I took note of. I had Watkins on the bench as well. Wood did not have a good match. So I started realizing that not only was Haaland having a crazy season already, but I was having, even without him in the picture, I was having an issue with my forwards. I thought about making Palmer my captain for this week. I swear, I'm not just saying it in retrospect. I genuinely was gonna make Palmer my captain, and the reason that I didn't, for some reason I think he should have been my vice captain. I don't know what I did. This'll happen again one more time a few weeks later, where I think I just don't save my changes in captaincy, and then Foden ended up being vice captain on the bench. Doesn't matter because Isak did play. But I thought about making Palmer my captain, and the only reason I didn't is because I felt like Isak underperformed the previous week, and they were playing against Bournemouth this week, so I gambled stupidly on the fact that Isak would make up for a bad start with a great match against Bournemouth. Only got 2 points out of him for his minutes played, which doubled into 4. So definitely Palmer would have been the right choice. Even Gordon would have been good, but both Palmer and Raya were team of the week for game week 2. So we get to game week 3. Average points, 64. Final points for me, 46. So I finished the week worse than I did in game week 1, worse than I did in game week 2, and I finished 8.6 millionth in the world. This was the week. This was the week that Declan Rice got a somewhat controversial red card, and then Arsenal ended up conceding, which affects me in that I have Raya, Saliba, and White, and I kind of rely on a clean sheet there to get maximum points. Now, I wasn't too torn up about it because I know that Arsenal are not going to get clean sheets only this season. I'm just relying on them getting the fewest or the most clean sheets possible. Brighton's a good team, but yeah, unfortunately that affected me, and we'll talk about White when we get to now, modern, present day. But yeah, overall just a poor week for me, I think. I captained Palmer, which again would have been the nice, but I'm never brave enough to make Chris Wood my captain, even though at the beginning of the season, I mean, I guess he is hot and cold. 9-1, 9-2, 8-2. So by this pattern, this upcoming game week, he would have like almost 2 digits, although that's against Chelsea, so who's to say? Isak showed up with 9 points, so Isak would have been a better call here, because he did score a goal and get the 3 bonus points. Shar still on the red card at this point, and yeah, just not a good looking week for me. So at this point, after game week 3, I'm like, okay, I need to make some changes immediately, because things are just going from bad to worse for me. I acknowledged that trying to make it a little bit spicy and not picking up Haaland at the beginning of the season was a silly mistake. So what I did is, as you can see, game week 4, I took up all of my transfers that I had saved up to that point, and I traded out Foden, who hadn't really done much, Watkins, which, as we talked about, was in poor form game weeks 1, 2, and 3, and had an incredible game week 4. So this being the first week that I was playing without him, he shoved it in my face, because he had an amazing week. Last week was really good, and I am starting to think that keeping Isak instead of Watkins was absolutely the wrong move. Some of you know I'm a Newcastle fan, so there was definitely some bias there. Neither of them was having a great start to this season, and I needed Haaland. So should have kept Watkins instead of Isak. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But essentially, I moved out those 3 players to get Haaland in, and then I needed like 2 midfielders at 4.5 million just to make it work with the budget. So I basically just selected the 2 players who were playing the best up until that point, and that was Tim Irokbunam. I've also heard it pronounced Irokbunam, so if you know the correct pronunciation, let me know. And Harry Winks. And so it did do good things for me, because for the first time in the whole season, I finished the game week above average. So the average was 51 points. I finished with 54, which put me around 4.4 million for the game week. This is the week that I genuinely thought I'd made Haaland captain, and I forgot to save the change, so that is one way to learn the lesson, and it won't happen again. But because of the trades that I made and I didn't save my changes, Palmer ended up being captain, which was bad. And again, as if things couldn't be any worse, Ollie Watkins scored twice in game week 4, and Kunku scored, and he's one of the players players. I had bundled up to get Haaland. But on the bright side, Cher came back and scored a goal for 6 points. So at that point, I'm like, the comeback is on. It doesn't matter that I didn't make Haaland my captain, that everyone else had like a medium game. Well, I shouldn't say that. Raya got his clean sheet, which was good for 5 points with Saliba, 6 points for White. So like my back line was looking pretty good, and I felt good about having Haaland. So at that point, I'm like, call me the comeback kid. Things are happening. Game week 5. I mean, the high was short-lived. Because game week 5, the average is 58 points. I end up on 47, which is, I think, my second worst game week yet. And I finish on 8.2, almost 8.3 million. In this match, I purposefully kept Palmer as my captain because City were playing against Arsenal, so I liked Palmer than Chelsea's odds against West Ham a little bit better. Turns out Haaland would have been the better choice, only by 1 point, which is 2 when you double them. Yeah, after this game, Chelsea went up 2-0, 2-0, and I was worried that things would calm down a bit and that Chelsea would start, playing to conserve a little bit, and that he would not end up getting a goal, but he did end up scoring anyway, the final goal of the match, and I got a decent amount of points on him. I think it would have been a tougher pill to swallow that I made him captain if that hadn't been the case. And yeah, Man City versus Arsenal was always going to be a tough one. That said, I'm still learning, and when you really think about it, if he scores 1 goal and is one of the better players of the match, you're still going to get a good amount of points off of Haaland. Again, Wood just showed up. My defense was terrible. So let's move on to the final game week. Up until now. Game week 6. Average points, 50. Your girl got 78 points. I spent the whole weekend just walking around going, I should have used my triple captainship. But you never know, right? You never know. But here's what happened. I decided to still keep Palmer as my captain. Why? I don't know. Again, it might be my bias thinking that, like, oh, Newcastle's gonna be a tough match for Haaland. But best decision I made, because Palmer ended up scoring those 4 goals, which is, he scored 4 goals in the first half, which had never happened before in the Premier League. So yeah, huge game. Kicked myself for not using the triple captainship, but again, how was I supposed to know that Mr. Gold Palmer was gonna get this out of the bag against Brighton? So I'm gonna have to be clever about my use of the chip this season. But I felt real good and vindicated about whole plan at the beginning of the season was, let's get Palmer instead of Haaland. Now I have both. But Palmer showed up for the team, and did I mention that put me in 646,000 for the game week? I cracked the top 1 million. I was so proud of myself. I cracked the top 10%, almost the top 5%. And so the rest was a mess. I mean, Raya 1 point, Saliba 0 because he got a yellow card and conceded a goal. Sharon 1 point. Guardiola did play well. Gordon did play well. And just happy I didn't make Haaland my captain. Isaac has now grown to be the pain in my butt, and I'll have to look at his price and see if it's worth getting Watkins in instead. And speaking of Isaac and my Newcastle, the one thing that I remember from this game week, other than Cole Palmer breaking football, is that Trippier had to change boots at some point during the first half, and he only had a chance to fix the broken one. I think his laces had snapped or something, and he was running around until halftime with an Adidas boot on one foot and a Puma boot on the other, and they were orange and purple. And the commentator said that Trippier was unusually shod, and that made me giggle. I think I was just in a really good mood this weekend because of Cole Palmer. Of course, team of the week, that's not what I meant to do. So 20 points for scoring 4 goals, and then the 3 bonus points, 2 points for 90 minutes played. I was glad they kept him on, and that was good for 50 points. So where does that leave us now for this week? Let's go and start looking at our team. So, I mean, yeah, obviously Raya's sticking around. Yeah, see, my problem right now is White hasn't been it's had a couple of rough weeks. And is he not? Yeah, groin injury, 75% chance of playing. My Arsenal defense has to stick around. Guardiola has to stay as well. And what's going on with Fabian Chair? Ankle injury, 75% chance of playing. He scored yesterday in the Carabao Cup. It was a penalty. But he was playing fine yesterday, so I might have to leave him on. I'm not sure about Mikalenko, because again, I have a Newcastle bias. Gordon's gonna might keep a lot of this the same. My only problem is, Sangare is not gonna be there. He's another one that I have to transfer, I think, because he's gone for the next 2 months at least. And then Isaac wasn't even on the bench for the Carabao Cup match. 50% chance of playing. So maybe I do have to put Erokbanam instead of Isaac. against Forest? Or do I make it Haaland against Fulham? Let me know what you think in the comments. I think I'm gonna have to either make some trades for this week or use my wild card maybe. We'll see. Give me your tips for this week in the comments. The way I would have it set up right now is probably have to take out Isaac, and then do you take out White and put in Mikolenko? And look, save your team. I won't forget this time. The one thing I do want to do as well, though, before I go for today, is my camera battery died just as I was about to go into our league to shout out the top 10, which is something that never happens to us. But I think I forgot to charge it after filming a 1 hour long members exclusive video the other day, so link in the description if you want to join the membership. But now let's have a look at the top 10 teams in our league. And Ryan O'Brien in first place. What is this? 448 points. I think I'm on 200 and something. Is that possible? 333. Okay. 200th place. 228 to be exact. But a Ryan O'Brien on 448 points is incredible. Second place is Aaron Gray, hot on Ryan's tail. Then we've got EC, who seems to be comfortably in third place right now. Fula, though, Fula is coming for you, EC. 436 points total. Fifth place is James, and is this volatile patient good friend of the channel, or is this a different James S? Let me know in the comments. Either way, 436 points. If it is you, volatile patient, I thought we were friends. How can you do this to me? Sixth place is Chris Laverack, 435 points. Look at how close everyone is. Travis Stearns, 7th place. Sam Pratt, 8th place. David Dowling looks to have gone down quite a few spots this week with 50 points. What's your situation, David? Do you not have Cole Palmer? Yeah, that's it. But look at this team anyway. Incredible. Fellow, Saliba, Raya, Holder, but also Van de Ven, Salah, Rogers. Yeah, I need to look into Rogers. And then Watkins, which I think is the right move. But good on you, David. And then we're rounding out the top 10. And to be fair, we've got two people on 431 points. So I have to shout out both Jacob Wilson and Logan Daly, who are battling it out for 10th place. This is awesome, guys. I can't believe how big our league is. I'm having so much fun. It's so pleasing to see everyone coming together and embarrassing me. But guys, don't forget to go down in the comments. Let me know how your fantasy team is doing so far this season. We're about 1/6 of the way thanks so much for hanging out with me today. We'll be back real soon. I know we've got another UFC pay-per-view coming up, so we'll be looking at that next. But that's it for today. I need to go and think about game week 7. Probably make some transfers. And I'll see you very soon in the